Hello folks and welcome. Linux Mint 22.1, about to be 22.2. So I'm going to talk about getting prepared for the next version, whether you upgrade or whether you do a fresh install. We can never have enough copies of our personal files, and also I will recommend that you do a fresh Timeshift backup or a snapshot. And I'm going to talk about the differences for some of you folks who do not understand that Timeshift by default does not copy your personal files or make a backup or a snapshot. I'm going to talk about the backup tool, the Timeshift tool, and also something that you can do in your file manager to do backups. Your file manager does have wonderful tools for that. In either case, some of you folks know how to do this, and some maybe not so much. We have Linux skill levels and Linux of all ages for users out there. So in either case, I'm not sure what yours is, but I'm just going to do a video prior to Linux Mint releasing 22.2. When is that slated? Well, Scuttlebutt has it that basically at the end of this month, which would be next week, possibly early August. I don't work on the development team. Clem and his team have the release schedules, but if you read Clem's blog, they are getting ready to think about that. So in either case, let's get prepared. All right, filming in 1080. The subscription logo is in the corner. I have well over 500 videos on all kinds of things. So let me talk about a couple of different tools. Now, we can use most of these tools for any of the Linux Mint desktops. This is Cinema. One of them is the backup tool, and this backup tool is actually very limited. It does not copy folders that doesn't have content, and I have some examples to show you on that. And then I'll talk about Timeshift, which a lot of people have the misconception that Timeshift does copy your personal files by default. It does not make a system snapshot of your personal files by default. I have default settings turned on, and you were asked to activate Timeshift during your installation process of Mint. If you didn't, it's a good idea to go do that right before you decide to either upgrade or do a fresh installation. All right, and then the third thing I'm going to talk about is the tools in your file manager. And I think you'll probably be pleasantly surprised how advanced those are. Now, let's start with Timeshift. So we are requested to put in our username password. Our user for today is Sam the Tester. It's just a silly made-up name. So you put in your password, and generally you want to look for that green shield if you've never done this. Now, Timeshift is generally running in the background. How does it make snapshots to begin with? And you can see there are 5 of them here. So after you install let's say the Cinnamon desktop, and you decided to forget about Timeshift after you told it to turn on, which is generally the case, people forget all about this. People also forget that it's making snapshots so you can return your system back to a previous date or roll it back instead of reinstalling your system because people forget about this tool. All right, it's also advisable that you do a Timeshift manual backup prior to you do an update to the newer version. If you're upgrading to Linux Mint 22.2, and generally Clem and his team will produce instructions on how to do that. And a lot of times it's just generally in here. You'll open up your update manager and you'll see an entry right here. And then you just follow the instructions. System Snapshots is Timeshift, so that's another place you can click this tool. I have 5 of these. Now I'm going to let you see the settings that generally are default. So it generally makes 5. I've talked about this before. If you are running out of hard drive space, some people reduce that number. I don't recommend going below 2 if you do reduce. But if you can afford the disk space, always just leave the default. Now, one of the things that people miss is This excludes all of your home folders. I have 3 users here. So this also becomes important to understand if you have more than one user on your system and you're getting ready to upgrade or do a fresh install. Wouldn't you want to have a copy of Hazel, Mark's, and Sam's personal stuff? You do. So if you can think about this later when I'm going to get into your file manager, we can think about doing logging into every one of these users by themselves and performing a simple backup of your personal folders. Just keep in mind though, by default it excludes your files. Not your system stuff, your personal, your documents, your pictures, etc. All right. At any time, how do you use the tool in case you need to revert? Well, all you do is, if you can log in, is to utilize something from the past and then hit restore. But what if you can't log in for whatever reason? Are these lost? No. What you use is your recovery disk or USB stick. You know, the thing you install Linux Mint with? Guess what? There is some tools there that you can actually open this. And generally, if you use the USB stick version or DVD, it doesn't request a password, but you can just click on the restore points. That's worst case scenario. All right, let's talk about the second tool. Now, before I do this, I want to let you see what Sam has. Sam is just a made-up name. So I created a green backup folder. It has nothing in there currently. Now, how did I color it green? You can just right-click, and depending on the theme you're using, generally these are available for your default themes, especially if you're using, I think it's Mintwise Sand. On some of the other themes, this may not be available. But anyways, you can color folders. So that's not one of the things that I'm going to talk about. I'm going to talk about content. So I want you to notice that the desktop, and it's a folder, believe it or not, and I don't have any icons there, has nothing. I have 15 items in my documents folder, nothing in downloads, 3 things in music. My stuff has 1 item. My stuff too has no items, but it is a personal folder. Pictures has 24 items, nothing in public templates, and we don't really care about the videos because I'm filming from there. All right, so what I'm going to do though is I'm going to make a backup of this stuff using the backup tool, this one right here. It has limitations though. So the backup tool has 2 categories. We have personal data and software selection. This just produces a list of software that you installed, and I do recommend actually keeping that list. Now, but I'm going to start with backup now, and what it's going to do is omit this folder right here. It's going to omit, in other words, not copy these that have 0 items in them. Just keep in the defaults, and they're going to end up in your documents backup folder. If you want, I'll let you see that it's empty currently. All right, I'll close the box and continue. So this is generally default, and you cannot remove that because if you have existing backups, that's the reason it's not going to create another one. But you can exclude other stuff. What are directories if you're not too clean on that? Well, if you've been watching some of my videos, you know what a folder is. Well, directories are the same thing. Forward or next. And then you can include, in case you want them, and most people do not need hidden folders, but you could include those. Generally, people don't. So it's going to create a tar file. What is a tar file? Tape archive is what that stands for. So your files were successfully saved in Home, Sam is the user, Documents, Backups, and today's date and time. So that's there's no back arrows, nothing else, so just close that. Let's go investigate those. So it's in here. And I'm going to actually open this for you. And let's just see what it copied versus what's in here. All right, so let's compare apples to apples. So Documents is here because it has 5.8 megabytes worth of stuff. we have the music folder, which has 3 items worth 357 megabytes. And then we have the My Stuff folder with the 302 bytes. It's one file that's in here. There is no folder called My Stuff 2. It's missing. Then we'll go over to Pictures, 18 megabytes worth of stuff at 24 items, and of course my video that I'm filming from. That's pretty much it. The templates publics are not here. The file that's called MetaMint has a tally for files. Number of files 66. Now, why do I make mention of these folders that have zeros in them? Well, they could be used for many things in the future. I sometimes make folders, I put stuff in them and take stuff out of them. Maybe you have a similar situation. But in either case, when you are making a backup and something goes wrong and you need to restore your computer completely from scratch and you want to return these folders to what you had, wouldn't it be a good idea to have a complete set, even though the folders are blank? Let me show you how to do that with your file manager in a minute. But we're going to talk about the second portion of this tool called backup. The backup tool also contains software selection, and I do recommend that you just perform that and then keep the list file somewhere. And we're going to talk about that somewhere from these devices. So we're going to do a restore. No, we're going to do a backup. So restores are generally used is if you have the files, previous files, to try to do a restore. And sometimes you don't have, well, full success doing it. But at least you will have a file that you can refer back to and copy back. And I'll show you how to do that manually, just in case of failures. Well, we're going to back up the software selection. Now, when you hit backup now, it's going to look at what you've been installing. And let's face it, a lot of us who have been upgrading for years and years and years, or maybe just 1 year, you start collecting a lot of software. Now, this over here allows you to deselect stuff. But this is the stuff I have in addition to my regular system files. And you probably will have a similar list with different applications. I'm going to hit forward, leaving everything selected. So what it's going to do is save that file in your home, your username, documents, backups, with today's date on it, with the ending packages.list. So let's go see what that looks like. It's just a list file. And that's what it looks like. I will go full screen, and then I'll enlarge that for you. So generally, this file here is used just in case of a catastrophic, and you want to reinstall these later because they all have the word install on the tail end. That's the name of the application. That's a card game, actually, a web browser, and this is similar to Photoshop. And then Golden Dictionary is, well, dictionary. They all have the word install on the tail end. And where does that actually come in handy? Well, again, you want to save these files somewhere else. And then when you open the tool up after a fresh installation possibly, then you can do a restore. All right, so now let's get into the meat of things. Where do we put this stuff? Well, before I do that and talk about internal backup drives or even external USB stick or USB hard drives, let's talk about the other tool that's built into your file manager. And this is where I'm going to use that folder here for. So currently there's nothing in there. So I'm going to copy everything in here. Now, if I have nothing in here, I can include that folder rather easily. But if I do have something in there, I may want to exclude that in the future. But we're going to copy every one of these things, including the stuff with the nothing in it. Now, how do you do that? You use Control, hold it down, and hit the A key. If you want to do it a different way, you can just take your mouse, click, and drag a box around all of these. Okay? I'm even going to include the one that I'm filming. I'm actually using Simple Screen Recorder, and there's an active file in here. I'm going to still save it. So once they're highlighted blue, then you can right-click on any one of these things. Right-click with your computer mouse and use the compress. Now you can choose compression or not. Yes, you can do both. Or one or the other, I should say. All right, it's at the bottom of this right-click on any one of these files, right next to properties. And it will say compress. And then you have a selection over here. Starting with .7z, I know some of you folks know how to do this. Ending with .zip. That's the extensions that it's going to finish with. And these are compressed. The bottom one has been around for years, and this is a newer algorithm here. As a matter of fact, it does have password protection. And then we have tar. Tar is one of the things that I've been using for many years, and so has a lot of Linux developers. What do we do with a tar ball? Or a tar box is what I call it lately. We throw files in it and folders. And that's what I'm going to use. This is not compressed. And this is one of the fastest methods of doing a backup. Tar. If you want to compress it, there's tar.7z, z, bz2, gz, lz, lzm. You can see all the derivatives of tar in here. But tar by itself, not jar, tar, is tape archive. And again, it's been around since the Unix days, like me. Now, I'm going to leave Sam's name in there and just also tack on the back end the word backup. Sam's backup or Sam backup. That's close enough. But since this is going to be a static backup that I'm capturing right now, kind of like Timeshift, I'm going to put a date on there. So I'm looking at my calendar downstairs, down here in the corner. So 7/21. These are just best practices. So if you collect a whole bunch of these things, at least you know immediately by the file name how old the file is. Now I'm going to hit create. That was pretty quick, wasn't it? That's almost a gigabyte. That's 845 megabytes. So what's in the box? What's in the box is everything, including the blank backup folder right here, the desktop, which is here, the downloads folder, which is there. Of course, the documents are there. And then music and my stuff, which does have data. And my stuff too, which does not have data. It also copied that so I can do what later? Restore all of these. All right. Even the public and templates were copied with it. Some people don't care about these things, and some people do. All right. What do I do with this? Do I just move it into that folder? I do recommend that you make a folder like this, and you can do this at any time. However, don't leave this thing here. If this is your only drive and it's old, let's say you've got a spinning hard drive or maybe even an older solid state drive, 2 years, 3 years, always put a copy of these things somewhere else. So we're going to copy these things to backup devices. Storage devices. This is an internal backup drive. This is an external backup drive. As a matter of fact, if you try to format an external drive, you can use USB, because generally we connect our drives USB, whether it's C or regular USB cables. You can see that's a 250 gigabyte drive. You can format these. This one here is formatted with not FAT32, but extension 4, which is a Linux type of system, file system. Point to this little circle and I'll tell you this different kinds. FAT32 is like the old stuff. It cannot handle files larger than 4 gigabytes. So if your tar backup is 4.5, you cannot use FAT32. You will need to format your USB or internal drive with something different than FAT32. Just remember the limitation. EXFAT can handle files bigger than that. NTFS is made for Microsoft Windows. And then extension 4 is made for Linux. And again, it doesn't have a limitation like 4 gigabytes. So you can still format your USB drives this way. So that's what this one is formatted with. All right, so this one here has some data on it. And let's take a look at what's in there. Well, I made several folders because I have several users on this system. So Hazel has a backup folder, Mark has a backup folder. I created a simple My Backup folder, and this is Sam. Sam is our current user for today. You can open up Terminal and just look at this part of it, and it'll tell you who you're logged into. The other way of doing it is the account details. Now, My Backup, I have a sample for you. I pulled these from yesterday from the same folder, Documents Backups. So they were done here. So going back to that, I have, sorry, wrong one, this one. I have that limitation stuff, except this one doesn't have the limitation. So I must have used my file manager tool to get that with the 0 bytes in it. So we're going to do the same thing here, except I'm going to wipe these clean. So I'll even get rid of this really old one too. I'm not sure where it came from. All right, so now I have this set up here, USB back one, backup, My Backup, whatever folder you want to use. All right, so how do you do this without exiting? You can do an F3, which what I call it does a split pane. On this side, click in here and then open up your home folder. This one is still USB back one, My Backup folder, that we're going to put that stuff in there. So I'm going to click back, open these two up, highlight both of them, and drag them over. All right, however long your USB device takes to transfer. So if you got a really slow spinning drive or possibly a USB 2 stick, it could take a while to transfer these. Okay, so that's the simple one. Or is it? Which one is this? Well, this is the one that had the limited version because I used the backup tool. So, but I can still walk over to here and grab this one, which has everything on it. All right, so we have one from the 21st that was done by the system backup tool, and the one I did from the file manager, which has a lot more data in it, if you noticed. All right, we can do the same thing with an internal backup drive, except I'm going to click it here though. So I have the same set of folders. I just duplicated the same set from here to the USB device, but this is an internal hard drive. We're going to do the same thing here. Was I using My Backup or Sam's backup? I don't recall. I think it was this one. So I'm going to wipe these clean also. This one's a little faster. Then I'm going to click back and transfer those two first. I'm not transferring them, I'm making a copy. Always make copies of your backups. All right, then I'm going to switch back over to the green folder and then also make a copy of this one. So they're essentially the same. And now I'm going to give you an example. What happens is you go ahead and you decided to do the upgrade. So you went here, possibly here, after the upgrade was available, and you click that and followed the instructions, but something went wrong. You did make a system snapshots, and remember, you can always do it like this. Before you start, you can create a manual snapshot. But in either case, something went wrong, and now you need to restore your folders. So you did a fresh installation. Or maybe you did a fresh installation because you just wanted a clean slate. All right, so I'm going to get rid of that folder and remove all the stuff to give you the example and the illusion of a fresh install. You can always use the same username because you're doing a fresh install. That's not a problem. And these folders won't be there because you did a fresh install. And I'm just using Control A on that one and delete. Do I have anything left? I'm going to leave the video. I can't terminate that because otherwise it'll kill this video. but I have 0 items in these folders. I just did a fresh install. How do I place this stuff back? Well, I'm going to go full screen this time. I'm going to do an F3. And what is F3 anyways? F3 is considered an extra pane. I call it split pane, but that's just my nickname for it. But extra pane will allow you to do stuff like this. I'm going to use this drive though, because it's a little faster. So I have my backup sitting in here. Remember those 3 files from the previous? Because I was smart enough to do this before it crashed. So I have this backup, which is very limited, if that's all you want, or I have the full one here. The cool thing about the full one is I can return those extra folders that had nothing in them also. But let me show you how to do this manually, in case you needed to do this. All right, I'm going to open these up one at a time. So we're going to go to documents first. I'll leave these 2 alone for right now. All right, open this up on your fresh creation, and then I'm going to click open the documents here. Remember, these are my backups, including the backup of the backup. Control A selects everything. If you want, make the box bigger so you're assured to select everything. Just drag the whole set. You're now done with documents. Go to the next folder, music. All right, this is still open even though it just closed because I clicked over here. So this side of the house is music. This is still my tar backup. The music folder is right here. I have 3 albums or 3 things. I can do them independently, drag and drop, or I can use Control A and then drag all 3 at the same time. And then I'm going to go to the next folder, which is pictures. This is still open. And as you can see, I have lots of images and a scroll bar. Even if you hit Control A, it should select everything. And you can just scroll to the bottom if you're not too sure. Then drag the whole thing and drop it. So 1 through 23. Let's confirm that. 1 through 23. So it copied all of them. We're still not done yet though, because I have folders that you do not have existing folders over here. Over here. So let me go back to the backup drive. Actually, I think this is still open. And let's put back the folders that were missing. One of them was called backup. It doesn't automatically color itself. You can do that right now if you like. So we'll just make that green. And then go back to our 2 folders that are missing, which is called My Stuff and My Stuff 2. Remember, one of them has stuff in it, the other one's just blank. So I can also multi-select here by holding down the Control key by selecting 2 folders and then drag them over. My Stuff 1, you can see 1 item in here. It's just a file. And the other one's blank. Is there anything else I need out of this? Well, let's confirm what we have. The public was generated by the system. The templates was generated by the system, and I really didn't have anything in the videos, but in case I did, I could drag and drop also. All right, but since I'm filming, I'm not going to bother with that. But we have backup. Desktop, again, is blank. Did you have something on the copy? If you did, you'll have bytes in here. Documents, well, we already put those back. I had nothing in the downloads, so I'm not going to bother dragging that over. But the music did have some stuff. And My Stuff and My Stuff 2, I did have folders that I want recreated. That's the key here that I was trying to get at for making this kind of a backup. Now, what do you do with the rest of those files that are on here? Well, let's go back to the drive itself. This part here, you may have to try. You can try to open this backup tool. Okay, and then point to this file here. You can drag and put it in here on your local drive if you like. So if you were to right click and copy. Let's toss it in downloads just as a temporary measure. And I'm going to click it in here though and do it that way. Okay, now I'm going to get rid of the F3. So we're back to just our standard. I'm going to click and drag that down so it's a little smaller. But more importantly, that is now a backup from my package listing from the previous setup, if that makes sense to you. So this is how you would do that part of it. You need to point to the folder where it's located. It is currently in downloads, and there's the list right there. Then you would hit open. I'm not going to do that because otherwise it'll initiate something. I don't want it to reinstall anything right now, or even attempt to. But let's say it fails. Let's say that you tried to do this and the tool did not work. At least you have a complete list of what you had on your previous installation. You had that card game. You had that web browser, that GIMP tool like Photoshop, and whatever else that you installed down here. Okay? Then you can reinstall those manually, but at least you have a list. I know this is a grueling thing to talk about, but a lot of people do not realize the fact that when we do upgrades, and let me go to Mint right now to let you see what's going on with Clem's blog. A lot of people will not upgrade, but there might be some people that want to use Mint 22 for the newer hardware kernel, for newer hardware, and then the fingerprint authentication is coming up. And then for you folks that like the Linux Mint Debian edition, LMDE7 will normally follow that. And they're saying likely September, so you may have to wait another month or so. But in either case, the same thing. LMDE6 is a Cinnamon desktop, and you can use this video for the same process. Thank you for watching.